uniform who are...
Afghanistan.
And NBC's Robert Hager boards 3 different flights today to show you what you can expect the next time you fly.
We will see you here back at 6. First, here's Nightly News.
America on alert. Last words. The haunting note left behind by a hijacker coming to terms with fear, death, and their suicide mission. NBC's Terrorism Task Force tonight, a major break in the investigation. Did this man teach the hijackers to fly? What did he know of their deadly plan? Enemy lines. We take you deep inside Afghanistan over some of the most treacherous terrain in the world. What will war be like? In depth, how safe? America returns to the skies. What's it really like to fly? How much security? And the family, healing the wounds across America, how to move past grief and anger toward hope.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. After more than 2 weeks of circumstantial evidence and a crooked trail left by the suspected hijackers, tonight, a document that may go a long way toward connecting the dots. It's a kind of hijacking manifesto, and 3 copies have been recovered. Also in London, a flight instructor is under arrest, strongly suspected of being in on the conspiracy. We'll begin with those documents tonight. NBC's Terrorism Task Force and national correspondent Jim Avila.
4 pages of handwritten Arabic, a pre-suicide mission pep talk carried on their last day alive by at least 3 of 4 September 11 death squads. Quote, when the time of truth comes and 0 hour arrives, then straighten out your clothes, open your chest, and welcome death for the sake of Allah.
It is a disturbing and shocking view into the mindset of these terrorists.
1 copy found in the luggage of lead hijacker Mohammed Atta, a suitcase that did not make it aboard American Airlines Flight 11, recovered by the FBI at Boston's Logan International Airport. Another found in a car left at this Dulles parking lot, traced to terrorist Nawaf al-Azami. And a 3rd copy found in the debris of United Flight 93 in a Pennsylvania field. Quote, when you strike, shout Allah is great, because this shout strikes terror in the hearts of the infidels.
This letter is clear evidence linking the hijackers on the 3 separate flights on September 11th.
And experts say the letter could tie co-conspirators to the plot. Kent Alexander is the former U.S. prosecutor who headed the Atlanta Olympics Centennial Plaza bombing investigation.
These are real investigative tools at this point. I mean, even taking a look at it and seeing what kind of rituals are involved before some kind of terrorist attack.
Rituals described in full by the documents left behind. Quote, check out your weapon before departure. Put on tight clothes. Also tighten your shoes well and wear tight socks so they'll not come out of the shoes. Perform the morning prayer in a group. Washington Post investigative reporter Bob Woodward was among the first journalists to see the letter. He says it suggests a well-planned, experienced team.
Whoever wrote it and organized these hijackers was thinking of everything. Nothing is left to chance.
In fact, the terrorists are even told to be cheerful on the way to the airport. Quote, when you arrive in the airport and get off of the taxi, smile and rest assured for Allah is with the believers, and the angels are protecting you. Chilling final advice on a mission of death. Jim Avila, NBC News, New York.
And there are more major developments on the investigation tonight. We'll continue with our Terrorism Task Force now and NBC's Justice Department correspondent, Pete Williams.
A dramatic revelation today in a London courtroom. British prosecutors claim an Algerian man living in England was a lead instructor of some of the hijackers. Investigators tell NBC News they suspect that Lofty Raisi was in on the plot, helping arrange flight instruction for the hijackers aboard the plane that smashed into the Pentagon. Raisi, a pilot himself, is in a British jail tonight, held for now on charges of withholding routine information from the FAA. Scotland Yard police picked him up a week ago at the request of the FBI after investigators discovered phone records showing calls from the hijackers. Raisi's lawyer says his client is no terrorist.
He adamantly denies any involvement in the recent appalling tragedies, and he is confident that he will be absolved of all involvement.
U.S. officials say Raisi took pilot training in Arizona at a flight school that has since changed hands, beginning at least 5 years ago. He continued to live in Phoenix until last year. British and American officials say Raisi flew with one of the hijackers last June from Las Vegas to Arizona, and they say he was videotaped with one of the hijackers.
We are working very closely indeed with the FBI in relation to their investigation. We are learning more about these organizations.
Part of what they're learning, officials say, is that the hijacking plot appears to have been planned entirely overseas, in England, in Germany, and officials tell NBC News tonight, in the Middle East, with some suspects in the plot traveling in and out of the United Arab Emirates.
I will say substantial cooperation from a number of countries that have enabled us to start to put together the picture, but the picture is nowhere near fully painted.
Tonight, officials say they now believe that all the major players in the terror plot either died in the suicide attacks or fled the U.S. long ago, but left behind a global paper trail that investigators are hotly pursuing. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
At the Pentagon tonight, NBC Jim Miklashevsky says a battle plan is taking shape. Military experts say it is not what Osama bin Laden has been expecting.
Riding in an armored caravan, the president's top foreign policy team arrives at the White House today to continue planning America's war on terrorism. But the military's role has been slow to take shape. Administration officials tell NBC News Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld has been frustrated by the military's inability to think out of the box and come up with unconventional, more creative strategies to attack the terrorists.
It is by its very nature something that cannot be dealt with by some sort of a massive attack or invasion. It is a much more subtle, nuanced, difficult, shadowy set of problems.
The president and Rumsfeld quickly rejected the military's first plan for an immediate massive bombing campaign in Afghanistan because there's little chance it would take out Osama bin Laden and concerns it would spark an anti-U.S. backlash in the Muslim world. Instead, Rumsfeld wants to rely heavily on U.S. Special Forces, their biggest role since Vietnam. Sources report Special Forces scouts already in the region, scoping out the battlefield for a possible U.S. attack. No final decisions have been made, but battle plans include selective bombing of military targets in Afghanistan to keep Taliban military forces off balance and out of the fight, and a sustained campaign by special forces and ground troops to hunt down and take out bin Laden. A daunting mission, since bin Laden remains well hidden and reportedly protected by a small army of faithful bodyguards.
Rumsfeld also believes the military cannot do this alone, so is leading the charge for all-out information and computer warfare to cut off bin Laden's communications and money. Tom?
Thanks very much, NBC Jim Miklashevsky tonight. The U.S. mission could be daunting in Afghanistan for many reasons. One of them, the sheer difficulty of navigating over Afghanistan's treacherous terrain. NBC's Tom Aspel found the journey very difficult as he made his way deep into the heart of Afghanistan, just 40 miles from the Taliban-controlled capital of Kabul.
From Faizabad in northeast Afghanistan to the southern end of the Panjshir Valley. 200 miles on a map, but it takes us 4 days driving 15 hours a day through some of the toughest country on earth, the mountains of the Hindu Kush. Soldiers of the Northern Alliance, sworn enemies of the Taliban, cut this road 5 years ago, their only land route from bases in the north to the front lines 20 miles from the Afghan capital, Kabul. Our vehicles, 10-year-old Japanese pickups, captured from the Taliban, falling apart.
My seat's disintegrating, so I'm trying to gaffer tape it up.
But our trip was easy compared with the millions of Afghans who, according to the UN, are on the move. Many on foot, refugees fearing an American attack. But we see none up here. The occasional farmer, a few small villages, well-tended land with the last of the wheat before the coming winter. Some of these mountains reach 12,000 feet. Snowmelt feeding the rivers, rickety wooden bridges barely taking our weight, often collapsing under the supply trucks of the Northern Alliance, forcing them to ford rivers where they can. More than half of Afghanistan is a mile high, a nightmare for any kind of soldier hunting Osama bin Laden and his terrorist bases. Parachuting in would be dangerous. Even a soldier jumping more than 3 feet out of a helicopter would risk falling off a cliff. Conventional troops in armored vehicles wouldn't fare any better. The countryside is littered with the wrecks of Soviet tanks and armored vehicles, shot off the mountains by guerrillas during the 10-year war with the Russians. At the end of the journey, the Panjshir Valley, part of the 10% of Afghanistan the Northern Alliance controls. Our vehicles barely made it.
What's happening now, boss?
The axle dropped off the car. A light moment, but the mood is quite anxious here, with many people asking why haven't the Americans come yet, and when will they attack? Tom?
Thanks very much, NBC's Tom Aspel tonight in Afghanistan. President Bush met with the first Arab head of state today to come to the U.S. since the terror attacks. The president said that he's pleased with the cooperation of Jordan's King Abdullah and other leaders in the Middle East that they're giving the United States. He also told reporters that the United States is, quoting now, in hot pursuit of Osama bin Laden. Here in New York, the mayor, Rudolph Giuliani, said today it could take as long as a year to clean up the ruins of the World Trade Center. Even with the biggest, most sophisticated equipment available, it will take that long just to move the 1,200,000 tons of rubble off that site. The projected cost of the removal alone is $7 billion. The overall cost of recovery, including rebuilding the Trade Center, a staggering $39 billion. Up next, 3 trips, 6 airports. What it's really like to fly commercial 2.5 weeks after the attack.
Sunday, my folks come by, see the look in my children's eyes. Something special about grandparents, so I'm baking Christmas. They're so special, they're the action, the main attraction. Now I'm showing how I feel, showing this love of mine with the heart of a meal. My heart to yours, my heart to yours. Pillsbury.
Ocean Spray is fortified with as much vitamin C as orange juice, so it's good for your whole body. Just leave the juicing to us. Ocean Spray. Crave the wave.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Cause you heard of the thought of I'm angry. 5 days since you laughed at me, saying never forget to come back and see me. Yesterday, you've forgiven me, but it'll still be today till I say I'm sorry. Like vanilla, it's the finest of the flavors. And to see the sugar and the Nova Garagos and my doors in the banger, it's your life to sign a waiver. I had a tendency to wear my mind up asleep. I had to it's been 1 week since you looked at me. Dropped your ass to the side, but I'm sorry.
Why do I
eat healthy choices? Sesame chicken, beef tips portobello,
Chicken Parmesan. Why?
Why?
Because it tastes great. Why?
Because my body
My body needs balanced nutrition. Why do I eat healthy choices?
Why do I eat healthy choices?
Why?
That's why.
That's why.
Monday, from NBC News, the truth about being prepared. You've heard the terrifying possibilities. We'll show you how to sort out fact from fiction and what steps you can take to keep you and your family safe. Watch today, Nightly News, Dateline, and MSNBC. The truth about being prepared. Special reports Monday on NBC News.
NBC News in depth tonight. The State Department has now issued a worldwide caution for Americans overseas as a result of the increasingly strident demonstrations outside U.S. embassies. The State Department saying there are no specific threats, but there are generalized threats, and so caution is in order. Meanwhile, in this country, President Bush, of course, wants Americans to get back to the airlines. In his words, so we took his advice, and we sent some NBC News personnel to the skies today across the length and breadth of this country. We get that report tonight in depth from NBC's Robert Hager.
New York's LaGuardia Airport, 5:30 this morning, as I join only 11 other people in the ticket line.
To get an idea what flying's like now, I'm heading New York to Washington, while NBC producers fly San Francisco to Los Angeles and Houston to Miami. My wait is short. Only 8 minutes later, I have my ticket.
You are good to go.
No delay at the metal detector either, and our plane is nearly empty. It seats 124, and in normal times is almost full. But today, there are only 25 aboard. And as we climb out, the smoke still over lower Manhattan, visible out the window. My seatmate, an accountant named William Stevenson, reflects.
I'm shocked. Now, usually these planes are three-quarters full, going and coming.
Behind us, advertising executive Jonathan Silverstein admits he's jumpy.
Gotta fly sometime. I can't be afraid of it. Although it's difficult.
But the flight turns out to be easy, and we're at the gate in Washington even sooner than we'd be normally if skies were as crowded as they used to be.
So, we're out of the plane at 10 after 8 in the morning, on time. Now let's check our other two flights.
As the sun comes up in San Francisco, NBC News producer Christine Ege does have one problem. She's in the general ticket line, and it's incredibly long. Seems to be the extra time it takes agents to run new secret computer checks of passenger IDs. But as flight time nears, passengers are pulled out of line and hustled through. So she makes her flight to Los Angeles with time to spare. And it, too, has few aboard. 60 passengers. Half the seats are empty.
It was a 10.
Meantime, in Houston, producer Clint Houston gets the shakedown of his life at security. First the metal detecting wand, then patted down by hand. Unclear why. But once airborne to Miami, he too counts empty seats. 36 of them on a flight that's usually sold out. Nationwide, 1.6 million used to fly on an average day. Now, it may be less than half that. But because there are so few, once travelers get beyond those lines and security, it seems to be easy going. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
Not surprisingly, Americans have strong feelings about air safety in the wake of this tragedy. According to a new Washington Post poll tonight that's breaking on their website, more than two-thirds of those asked think that airline pilots should be allowed to carry guns. 82% think the federal government should take over security screenings at airports, even if it costs almost $2 billion. Certainly the cost of air travel is going to go up. When we come back, for those who aren't ready to take to the skies yet, new ways of doing business.
What are you doing?
Laundry.
Laundry?
But I'm glad you're up. I've been waiting to vacuum. Breakfast. I'll pick up your tray when I get back from the market.
But it's Sunday. Aren't you going to lay around and watch football all day?
Not if I'm going to finish that roast in time for dinner.
Somebody had their Minute Maid this morning. It only takes a minute, but the feeling lasts all day.
Honey, what's the setting for chiffon?
Pete Sampras knows about One-A-Day's new active multivitamin with more B vitamins and ginseng to enhance energy. One-A-Day. Get active, stay active.
6 weeks before one of the biggest games of my life, I felt a strange pain in my chest. What my doctor found was my toughest opponent yet. 3 of my arteries were more than 90% blocked. After recovering from surgery, lowering my high cholesterol became more important than football. Later, I was fortunate enough to coach my team in the biggest game of the season.
That's the kind of play we need.
Along with a healthy diet and regular exercise, taking Zocor every day helps significantly lower my total cholesterol.
Zocor is a prescription medication and is not right for everyone, including women who are nursing, pregnant, or may become pregnant, or people with liver problems. Your doctor may do blood tests to check for liver problems. Because serious side effects can result, tell your doctor about any muscle pain or weakness you experience while on Zocor and about any medicines you are taking.
When diet and exercise are not enough, talk to your doctor about Zocor. Take care of yourself. It's your future. Be there.
You're not bigger. They're smaller. Mini Oreo.
Right. Things are really shaping up. What's for lunch?
Tomato soup.
Condensed soup? That was okay when we colored with crayons.
We're adults now.
There's a better tasting soup.
Progresso Hardy Tomato. Big chunks of fine ripened tomatoes and special seasonings, so you get way more flavor. See the difference?
Is this better?
Mm-hmm. Now about your finger painting.
What?
It's time to go to the better taste, the Progresso.
Sunday, the war on terrorism. The battle plans? Who better to ask than Defense Secretary Rumsfeld, plus Senators Biden and Hyde. If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press. On Wall Street today, another rally for the Dow, up 166 points, but still short of 9,000. NASDAQ was also up today, 38 points. An unusual week, the Dow regaining more than 611 points on the week. NASDAQ was up more than 75 for the week. But it is hardly business as usual for many American companies these days, especially when it comes to travel. NBC's Roger O'Neill on the new ways that American workers are getting down to business in a world that has changed so radically.
Thank you for your patience.
They're trickling back, but fear and long waits still keeping business travelers from flying.
I'm not sure they've implemented the right things yet. I think they have a way to go.
Business flyers, the bread and butter of the airlines, in good times filling 50% of the seats, generating 60% of the revenue. Now businessmen and women are looking for safer ways to do business.
Well, I'm going to be doing more conferencing, more time on emails.
There's been a 70% increase in video conferencing since September 11th.
We really haven't had any surprises.
At this firm, Bob King says it's cheaper than flying, but more important, it's keeping his employees safe.
You owe it to your company to figure out what other ways there are that might be alternatives to air travel.
We may just want to add something.
Computer webcasting is an option J.D. Edwards Company plans to use more of instead of traveling. For critical face-to-face meetings, private jets are taking off. This 8-passenger business jet rents for $2,000 an hour, but there's no waiting in lines to get through security.